I'd like to call the City of Richmond meeting to order, April 3rd. Everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody tonight for our meeting. The first item up for this evening is our open public forum. Anybody that is not on the agenda wishes to address the council, this will be your time. Seeing there's nobody jumping for joy, we'll move on to approval of the agenda for this evening with the addition of resolution 129-19.
When did that resolution come in? When was the request, in the last 4 years?
I do not know.
The request for that?
For adopting this.
I finished that up today.
It's that, it was an orders that we had, it came through last early fall. We've been
Last summer.
discussing.
No matter when, I was last year or not, it should be,
Yep.
at least a week, so
Absolutely.
I could do some homework on it,
Absolutely.
okay?
With that, I'd look for approval of the agenda for this evening.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of meeting minutes from March 6, 2019. Anybody have any questions or comments on the minutes?
Motions?
If there is none, I'd look for a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I'll make that motion to accept the minutes of March 6th.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of bills paid. Is there any bills in there that anybody has questions on? And if not, I'd look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Consent agenda for this evening, resolution 126-19 is approval of March 2019 journal entries. Item B is acknowledgement of People Services March 2019 written report. Item C is resolution 127-19, approval of minor administrative subdivision for 728 4th Street Northwest. And item D is resolution 128-19, authorization of temporary 1 to 4 day liquor license for Richmond Fire Relief on May 18th, 2019 at Centennial Park. And that is their day of their bike run.
Is resolution 127-19 the same as 129-19?
No.
I emailed out 127 this morning when I had the rest of the information to finish it up.
Fill us in on that one
Yep.
particular.
So there's a map we were given.
Right?
There's a big lot and a small lot, and
Yep.
we're just doing a split to separate them. Right now they're connected, they have the same address, same parcel, so we're separating them to do some housing.
Okay. All right.
And they concur with all the square footages that apply.
Okay. It's just a split. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. That was my only question pertaining to that. Thanks.
We did the same
It's all
thing
been-
for the neighboring property about a year and a
I
half ago.
remember that. Yep.
So with those 4 items, if there's any, no other questions, I'd look for a motion to approve.
I'll make that approval of consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. At this time, I'd like to introduce the 2 city new employees. Whichever one you want to stand up first, I'll introduce you. Or you can both stand up together. Joni Enquist is our new deputy clerk. And she started in December. And Jason Bierman is our new arena maintenance assistant. And he started at the end of March, I believe, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, December. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yes. Welcome. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
All right, now we'll move on to the next item up on our agenda for this evening, which is resolution 120-19, adopting ordinance amendment of the City of Richmond City Code, Chapter 20,
So, yeah, we talked about this a little earlier too. Like I said, last summer it started with the small cell towers coming into cities. At that time, legislation was still talking about as far as what power and authority cities had as far as where they could be placed, how they could be placed, what they could look like, things like that. Just recently, had to be end of the year, early this year, they finally made some decisions. So I have put together the little bit of authority the cities are able to do now with the towers when they come through. As far as permitting, what they need to look like, where they can go, fees, things like that. So I put it into a resolution form for us to move forward to implement it into our city code so we have it for the future.
Does this have to be advertised in the paper for additional 2 weeks?
We'll
Anytime
post,
it goes into the code, or
we'll
as
publish
ordinance.
we'll publish it after it's approved.
Yeah, well, like I said, all that was, we just want to make sure they just can't put a tower higher or lower, or stick it in the middle of the street or anything like this, and that was what a lot of it came down to. from
The city
state.
still doesn't have a lot of authority over what can be done and what can't be done, but the little bit that you will be able to is in here for you.
How about interference with other individuals electronically?
As far as,
Let's say the tower goes up and the next door neighbor has satellite TV and all of a sudden can't get satellite TV or gets a lot of interruption.
what we got as a memo and what we were given to as far as what authorities we would have is pretty much in this resolution.
And that came from who?
It would have came from the league, and we had our neighboring city also did the same thing. So as far as the interference of things like that, I guess I can't answer that question.
Comes from the state, that's what the,
Yeah, there's not a whole lot that we have authority over with this. Our hands are pretty tied as far as what the legislation said we can and cannot do. And you guys don't have to do anything with this. This is up to you. If you don't want to have any control of the cell towers coming in, that's your call too. This is just a recommendation as far as if we want any the little control that we can have.
I think we need that, but,
Well, we need to have something in place,
That's why-
obviously, as some type of resolution,
that's
in
why.
case it does come up or whatever too, because then at least we're gonna have, something to go back on, when it may occur, or if it does occur ever, so.
That's all it is, covering us.
Exactly. Don't wanna run into any legalities, let's put it that way. Right. Or if we have any issues or any problems with anybody too, so. And I think we can address these types of things on an individual basis if they do happen to come in and stuff too, especially with this resolution being in place, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Any other comments? Any questions? How do you wish to move?
I wish to make approve the job, resolution 129-19.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Engineer report.
All right, good evening. That small cell thing you guys are just dealing with is in every community, and it's a struggle. So it's not a lot of fun when there's not a lot of power we have left. So moving forward, that was a good deal. Back to my report here. So I'm here to talk this evening about our 2019 project, our funding pursuit, how that's going, and how it relates to construction schedule and that kind of thing. It's time to get the public on board and make sure everybody knows where we're at and get them an update. So. USDA has approved my report, both the engineering side and the environmental side. They have not offered us a formal funding package yet. We're going to get everything we expected for sewer. The 25% grant is what we're hoping for. What we're coming short on right now on the preliminary figures is the water side. They're saying we don't have quite enough water debt to your grant funds associated with the water. 2008, when we used the same funding package, we did get those grant funds. So this decision is not final from USDA. We don't have a final package. As a matter of fact, they're looking through some of our bond issues from the past to see if they can pull some more water debt out of those issues. And that would help us in the grant funds. So long story short, We are going to get some grant for sewer, and we would like to get some for water, and we think we should deserve some as well. We'll see what they come up with. When it comes to the project overall, this is going to be, the USDA funding is going to be a portion of our funding for the projects. We know that assessments will be a portion of it, we know the USDA will be a portion of it, and we're hoping we can get another state agency to come in and, maybe move a little more grant toward our funding package, so we aren't bearing it so much on the citizens of Richmond here. So, at this point, given the fact that it's April, early April right now, before USDA would look at our plans, I think we are behind the 8 ball to construct anything in 2019 with the funding package we have. I think it would end up being mostly a city project, and I don't know that we can afford that at this point. And talking with Tessa and looking at the books, it's not good for that. So it is up to the council whether you want to move forward with a portion of the project or none of it, or put it all on the books and say, hey, let's wait and see how our funding package comes out for 2020. Get a letter out to the residents saying, hey, this isn't going to happen this year because of funding. Like I said, the option is for the council, but at this point, I would recommend maybe delaying until 2020, just based on the bidding atmosphere right now is not great, especially when we're looking to bid in July. I mean, that's realistically what we're looking at, and that's just not a great time to bid a project if you try to start it this year. So, questions on that? Happy to answer questions on it. Happy to discuss more funding options with you. We've had our handout from every agency we can think of, and it's basically just got to run another year through the funding cycle and see where we end up. But like I said, right now I'm afraid it's not affordable for the city of Richmond, and I don't want to put that burden on us. We already have debts that are outstanding that we don't like as they are. To make it worse seems a little short-sighted. So.
How about downsizing the project?
So the thought of downsizing the project is certainly a fair one. USDA projects are better off larger just because simply that's how they're better funded. That being said, we could pick portions of the project. In January, I believe the council authorized me to start the final design on the, we'll call it the area of the church and school up there, 2nd Street North. And then Main Street as well to be done in correspondence with the Stearns County improvements on Main Street. Stearns County has given us some leeway on that. So we've got options with Stearns County moving forward as to when their portion of the project will be done. So we could certainly take a portion of it, but every portion that we've construct at this point would likely be on our own without funding, because USDA is going to view it as a full package.
Just off the top of your head, of all those streets that are involved,
Yes, sir.
and you would just tar, how much money would it be, roughly?
Just to pave everything that's
Just to
out there
pave.
right now? I wouldn't want to hazard a guess without honestly looking at my numbers. The total project was something about $4 million, and the street restoration is a good portion of that. I'd say in excess of half. But that's everything. I mean,
But that's not just picking it up, that's digging and making it a certain tonnage road.
well, yeah, and replacing the utilities underneath it that are needed. Yeah.
Well, I think what we were finding, obviously, from this winter, let's just back up here a little bit too, even though it may not be quite over with yet, we're hoping. But you could obviously see within the city limits and stuff too, where some of the problems that did occur with some of the areas that actually do not have curb and gutter, sewers and everything. We did have a substantial amount of flooding and obviously some streets in some areas, and in some of these areas currently right now, obviously we're not looking at, we're not tackling those particular things.
Yep.
So that's that's kind of where we're at right now overall with the city. But I think as a whole, I would personally, and for the city and everybody too that is going to be involved, especially with the assessment process of it, and for our availability to be able to get as much funding as we possibly can, which in turn would help those people involved with the assessment too, because maybe it would cut their initial cost back down a little bit too substantially. I think if you went to a consensus overall, they would probably feel comfortable wanting just to hold off and let's maybe look at this and wait till 2020. I mean, our roads are kind of what they are right now. Obviously we'll just have to patch and do what we need to do to get by currently a little bit, and hopefully, you know, maybe not have such a rough winter like we did this last winter with all that happened in and around the areas and stuff too. So I don't feel that we should just necessarily just put a Band-Aid on it and just tar over the top of everything and make them all look good. It's really not the purpose. The purpose is to actually get them fixed correctly, the right way, and do it all at once and be done with it. I mean, that's just what you literally have to look at doing. So I'm, you know, as a council member here and as a city taxpayer, I'm fine hopefully holding off till 2020 if we can. So just my opinion.
There is one street that if we decide to hold off, there's one street we can't wait any longer. It needs to get fixed. I mean, we promised residents on that street to fix it. They've been promised for the last 20 years to be fixed and it's never been done. So Ivy Avenue, those 3 blocks.
Yep.
Either way, we were going to be paying the brunt of the bill on that one anyway because
Correct,
there's no
yes.
services going in.
Yes.
And if we decide to hold off on the rest of the project, that Ivy Avenue, those 3 blocks, I think need to get done, one way or the other. I mean, even if we.
Yeah, that is the one portion of the project that really doesn't see a lot of benefit from waiting. And because, like you said, there aren't utilities underneath that are gonna help us pay. There was a small portion of 3rd Street Southeast, east of Ivy, that is actually, has sewer in it. It would pay to wait on that portion of it, but Ivy itself, like you said, Mr. Mayor, is exactly correct. It's not a very highly eligible street, so.
So could you come back for our April meeting with an itemized bill for what Ivy Avenue would be by
Yeah.
itself?
Yeah, I can update the cost estimate for Ivy Avenue, and we can discuss schedule, timing, and those things, yes.
And that way the council can have between now and then to think about the other streets if they want to push it back and just say we're gonna, I mean, obviously you're gonna wait for financing anyway, one way or the other, but at least then we have a chance to look at some of the other streets if we think there's something has to be done or if we can afford to wait for the whole project or not. Is that fair?
And one thing we need to do too, Jim, if we decide to go that route instead, we just gotta make sure that we tell the residents that are involved with that here's the reasons why we decided to pick these particular ones. Not necessarily just, you know, from the standpoint of just, okay, we decided just to go this route and that we're just gonna fix their streets and people that are involved in that area. But I think if we decide to go that, I think it would be good for us just to make sure everybody knows the reasons why we did it and decided to do that from that standpoint.
If we decide to do Ivy Avenue, approximately 3 blocks, what is the assessment going to be for those folks?
I
guess, are you planning on assessing it, or are you planning on taking it on the general fund as repairs? This, I guess, is off, after your question to you, Mike, you were saying to hold off on the plan, but maybe to look at doing these 3 blocks.
I guess, Pat, by basically relook, I guess I would have to go back and look exactly what's all involved with that. Like Dave was telling here too, that what that overall cost is being and who's it going to affect and stuff too. So I don't,
There's people,
without that information being in front of me, I have no idea what
there's
that
people on Third Street North, Southeast,
would be.
that don't care about it. They swear they're gonna assess us anyway, let's get it done.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. You're gonna
Exactly.
assess these 3 blocks, if that, give the opportunity for these other people too.
The
Sure.
normal assessment has been 25% is what the city is normally, to a net 25% of the cost.
If we bond it.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
I
so those
don't-
properties were included in the assessment hearing.
Yeah.
So the preliminary assessment hearing was completed for those properties on Ivy. So it would still be an option to do that at this
I
point.
mean, I don't see us going any higher than that either, just for the fact that it's not fair to assess one person, one place, part in town, a number, and then turn around and next year, then you're gonna assess.
Yeah, no,
totally
by all
different
means, we
number.
wouldn't do that.
But
No,
that's
makes
why I
sense.
said, let's bring it back on our workshop meeting and have some numbers, so we're actually looking at actual numbers and not just throwing numbers out the sky.
Right.
I'll include the
No.
assessments in those calculations.
Yeah.
Just pull that whole section out and
Yep.
bring it back to
Yeah.
us.
Is everybody fine with that, or is there?
Yeah.
For the original start of where it was, just pull
Yep.
that.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
You
I'd
want-
like to relook at that. It's been a while since we've looked at those numbers in general, so.
Absolutely.
Do you want Dave to bring anything else back? Any other parts of the project? That, I mean, all the other ones have water and sewer underneath that. But that one, storm sewer, if we
Correct.
decide to put it back on or not.
And I think us waiting for the bonding bill to go back through again is huge.
That's an option. There are funding options, and I can maybe even explore those a little bit with you guys at that meeting as well.
Because there's gonna be a lot more next year than it is.
In theory, yes.
In theory, in theory,
In theory.
in theory.
As much as we can stand here and, say,
Yeah,
the legislature will do this, I don't think any of us are comfortable with that, but they have shown some desire to fund local roads and that kind of thing in the past few years, so.
And this one here was the weak one, and next year's supposedly, like I said, it's a
Yep.
theory, but it could help us.
It certainly could. Yep.
Otherwise, you're funding that, what is approximate timetable? I know you thought you'd have it all by now, but
Yeah, so there is a pooling date for USDA where they talk national funds that happens in the middle to end of April here. After they do that, so the states that don't use their money up, it goes back into the nationwide pot and it gets distributed to the states that do. Minnesota is one of the states that does use its money up every year. So in theory, there should be some more funds opening up, let's say early to mid-summer, which might get us in the list for a better package at that point. But again, it's gonna be based on how much water depth we can find, and we're really trying to find everything we can. Refinance bonds over years and years make this a complex thing to dig up, but with the money the city owns, we certainly think there's a good case for it, and they don't disagree, so they're helpful.
anything else you're out? Thanks, Dave.
Thanks a lot, Dave.
We'll move on to the department report for this evening. Police Department, Chief Jason Bloom.
Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening. Start out with just a monthly report for the month of February on the city of Richmond. There were 76 total incidents, 5 medicals, 4 suspicious activities, 27 traffic stops with 31 warnings and 10 citations. In those traffic stops, we had 2 narcotics violations and then 1 warrant arrest and 40 miscellaneous calls for service. Couple things coming with spring. Now the snow is melting and it seems to be melting rather quick and hopefully quicker this weekend when it's 60 to 70 degrees. But we're going to start having officers in the next month or two start going around checking ordinances like we did last year. We'll wait until everybody, the yards are dry and people can get out and work on them. But just make sure to go through. Big things are numbers of vehicles, anything that's accumulated throughout the yard, throughout the winter months. And if you have any questions, definitely contact City Hall or our office and we'll try and get those answers as best we can. But just a kind of a warning to that, we'll start doing that in the next couple months.
Can you just give me a little, just for the viewers, let's say you have a vehicle sitting out beside your house and as long as the tabs are current, is that decent or does it have to be on an improved surface?
There's a couple things. It needs to be functional. If it's outside, it needs to be functional, or it can be stored inside a building. It needs to be on approved surface, tabs need to be current, and with that, tires inflated, that kind of stuff. So it needs to be able to go down the road.
Operate.
Operate, there we go.
Okay, same theory, but okay, beside your garage, you see a lot of campers parked. I've had this question asked, and that's one reason I'm asking it.
We're supposed to be,
It's
Cameras
on-
need
it's
cameras
on
need to be on
approved
approved surface.
again, it's gotta be operable. If they can't pull it down a road with expired tabs.
Yes.
I mean, most of them that are sitting there have their tongue hanging towards the road, ready to go out. It's just a matter of they back in, they unhook it, and they put their truck in the garage.
Yep,
That's what
and
it's-
it just needs to be, on that approved surface, whether it's concrete, gravel, crushed rock, whatever the case may
Just
be.
can't be on grass.
It just can't be on grass.
Okay, I just wanna.
Yep, no, absolutely. And there is a list of them, and if anybody has questions, we can answer them best we can. And another one of those things is with the campers and vehicles is the number of vehicles, and the number of vehicles you can have in your yard outside any buildings is 4. And that seems to be one that with trailers and campers and everything that kind of adds up is one of the big ones that we run into is just the number of vehicles that are parked outside. Any other questions on that? Also, with the warmer weather, each spring we kind of seem, after people can get outdoors again, we have a rash of people going around and just crimes of opportunity, checking car doors, checking outbuilding doors, opening them up, grabbing what they can. They happen quick, it's tough for us to catch. So with that, if anybody sees anything suspicious, let us know, but take that extra step to protect yourself. Just lock cars, put them in a garage, lock those outbuildings, that kind of stuff, and it's just an easy way to help protect yourself. This Saturday, April 6th, from 9 to 1, we'll be at the Rocori High School. We'll have a public safety booth, give an opportunity for anybody to stop in, be able to visit with officers if you have any questions. It's a good time to ask those questions. Otherwise, we'll have a variety of information for people to take home. So if anybody's available, definitely stop in and chat with officers. Then one other thing, there was a company called SafeWise. They go through crime statistics from last year. So what was compiled for last year, we were ranked, or I should say the Colesburg Richmond community was ranked in the third safest community in Minnesota. So yeah, they go through, they compile all the crime statistics. So I think it just goes to show the good work that the officers that I get to work with go out and strive to achieve those goals. So definitely a pat on their back. So things are going well.
Thank you. Yeah, good, thank you.
That's
great.
all I have, unless anybody has questions for me.
Have two complaints on 2nd Street Northeast. What is your experience? Do you have any experience with these solar-powered 30 mile-an-hour speed signs that will flash or whatever if they're speeding? Do you have any in your jurisdiction?
We have some in Cold Spring that were put in with the Safe Routes to School grants. We looked into those last year or 2 years ago for, I believe it was Coney Road 23, and we looked at movable ones that, and more stationary ones, and it came down to a cost, because the ones that are worthwhile are in that probably $4,000 to $6,000 range.
I just did a rough survey on the internet, and you're in between $3,500 and $5,500, and that's without installation.
Correct.
But I'm looking at, this is past our park system.
Yep.
And when it goes past our park system, the Little League is going there. The people that have contacted me said they have brought it up to the city's attention numerous times, nothing has been done. So that's why I'm bringing it up again, and I'm going to be pushing to see if we can budget or get some funding from the Lions or somebody, because a small person's life is a lot worth more than $3,000 to $5,000.
I agree with you, and we got
Especially with
complaint.
the hundreds of kids that we have playing Little League.
So I agree with you, and roughly 2 weeks ago we got a complaint at our office, and I've been watching the traffic stops that have been occurring over there. We have had a relatively heavy presence over there patrolling that roadway from the Central Avenue to County Road 9. So there have been, I don't have the number of traffic stops off the top of my head, but there are several per day.
This is actually from County Road 9 east, past the park.
Or,
Towards the fire station.
not Central Avenue, Oakwood Avenue is what I meant to say, yes.
Going back.
Yep, by the fire department out there, yep.
Because they say it's just a raceway. In fact, one person invited you to sit on his porch if you'd want to and take radar. He wouldn't care.
And now that the snowbanks are gone, we have parked our speed truck out there, and that's usually one of the places that we.
I'm looking at that as a temporary fix only. You know, let's get something done, especially with the park.
Yep. No, definitely worth looking into options. I agree.
Anybody else have any other questions for?
To follow up that, excuse me, Jason, how did it work on your safe routes to school? Did it control traffic? You said you have a few there.
Yep, in Cold Spring, we have
Yes.
2 of them. It helps. It's a portion, it's an education, it's a person seeing a number, but it also comes with enforcement, so we have to be out there.
Just saying,
Yep.
you have noticed some
It does
control over it.
It does slow people down. Those ones aren't, if you were gonna look into them, I would look into the ones that actually track the data, so you can see times a day, number of people speeding, so it's not just a person's perception, you can actually get hard data out of that equipment. If you're gonna spend the money to do it, I would recommend that, so we can take a look at that data and see if there is increase, decrease, if it is effective, those options are out there.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions? Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you.
EMS, Randy Shacklin.
Evening, Mayor, Council. Randy from Emergency Management. We did some pumping some water off some streets about a week and a half ago. The big one we did was off of Elm 2nd, Elm 1st. We did about 4 or 5 other ones we attempted to. And as far as I know, the water went down significantly. We just couldn't hit them all. The winter hit pretty hard and fast. And hopefully we don't have to do it again. Any questions or concerns?
When that happens, because I did have a resident call pertaining to that. I wasn't home at the time, but does that particular thing fall underneath the EMS in those situations and stuff too, or where does the chain of command start and then finish with?
Yeah, I mean, we have flooding, natural
Right.
disasters, all that stuff is in the EMS plan.
Right,
So,
no, I know that.
Randy and I
exactly.
chatted with each other as far as how to put a plan in place to get this taken care of. Because we'd had calls come through City Hall with rising water and concerns. And like we talked earlier, we have some streets that don't have the proper drainage. So
Right.
we had to do something. I mean, we have pictures too as far as some of those roads. I mean, they would not have been drivable.
Right.
So obviously we wanted to make sure we didn't have more damage done to our own streets, but also make sure we don't have damages going to the property owners and their vehicles too. So,
Most of the time, Gordy would take care of that in the scope, so.
Right.
yeah,
we
Okay.
stepped up
we
and-
pulled together.
Right, no, we did, and that was, yeah, I appreciate that, thank you, so. Okay, I was just curious just on how that worked, so. Right,
Anybody else have any questions for Randy? Thank you, Randy.
thanks, Randy.
Council report for this evening, EDA, Mike.
Yeah, our last EDA meeting we had was Tuesday, March 19th here at City Hall. We had Tracy Ryan come in. She is actually a consultant with working with small cities, trying to determine exactly how to increase businesses, how to maintain businesses, where the city of Richmond can start looking at ways to enhance our main street. So with the existing businesses that are there, and then also possibly creating some new businesses and stuff too. So she did a big PowerPoint presentation pertaining to all this. It was just very, very informative. We're going to look at possibilities. Everybody, our next meeting within our EDA is going to come back with some possible ideas and what they're thinking might be the best to be able to help with businesses and downtown businesses, and just we're going to kind of keep pursuing that. That's kind of some of our next steps. And one of the things that I think was brought up a little bit too, which the city of Richmond needs to utilize a lot more, which we all agreed upon, was Highway 23 signage. We just do not have enough posted signage on Highway 23, basically saying, you know, hey, we have a downtown business area. We literally have, you know, a downtown district area. So when people come driving through on Highway 23, sometimes they think only the gas station and the liquor store and the other gas station, that's our main street. So we're trying to really focus on bringing people, especially from out of town, from around the lakes area, and stuff to hopefully get some better signage that would bring them in, you know, to downtown where we can, where they can, you know, obviously, you know, take advantage of our businesses in town. So majority of our meeting was spent on that. We really did a nice discussion, nice presentation. So we're just going to kind of continually moving forward with that. And our next meeting coming up here is April 16th, which would be a Tuesday, and that's here at 6:30 at City Hall. It's always open to the public, so if anybody would like to attend. So be more than happy to have people on board. And also we're still looking for another member also too. We are short one EDA member. So if anybody knows of, anybody would like to get interested in that, please let the city know, and Tessa and everybody up here too. So, and that's all I have. Jim? Anybody have any questions, I should say?
Yeah, no, you said that you're looking for some more signage and stuff. Are you looking for more funding to help do that? Because I know in a few years back,
Yeah.
I know you guys were talking about it, and then when they went to, I know the CNC went, tried to find, investigating, they looked at money and it was a cost.
Yeah, there was, yeah, Tim, I think we're just kind of getting, we're basically just starting to look to see what would be available and how we want to go about doing it. You know, one of the suggestions was obviously working with the state of Minnesota,
Yep.
Especially those blue signs that you see anywhere you go, either on main interstates or highways or whatever too, where getting into some type of signage that we can use available throughout our corridor of Highway 23, from basically from the one horseshoe to the other horseshoe, let's just say that.
Right.
So we haven't gotten that far yet, anything, but it was just a big suggestion that said that's vital. We really do need that. I mean, Highway 23 becomes just a drive-by for a lot of people, and they don't realize what's in the town and what we have available. And so that's what we think it's really an important aspect to hit.
Right. And like I said, that's what.
Yeah, we did try years ago with that and everything too, but
Yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It was a cost, and I know
Oh.
CNC and stuff, and I just.
Yeah,
If we can get some of the signs that can point, into the city, I think so that there's some funding available, and now that, whatever.
With Tracy on board right now too, she's got a good handle with that and where we can look at possibly, getting that type of funding available too. So we're hopefully excited that this is gonna keep moving forward, so.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mike? If not, we'll move on. Planning Commission, their next meeting is gonna be on the 25th of April. There was no meeting last month. Recording Trail.
We actually ended up canceling tomorrow's meeting. We
Tomorrow
didn't
we'll have
have
a meeting.
anything.
Kevin, would you, Kevin, just to let everyone know, a couple of the board members went down to the state capitol, and Kevin's here, so if he can give us a little report, would he?
Sure. In the last month, we've had two hearings or testimonies to House of Representative committees. The first one was Ways and Means, the second one was Appropriations. And we passed through both of those. We have a request in for $1.13 million to finish the trail from Cold Spring to Rockville. And, our testimonies went well. We had good responses, and our little portion of any bonding bill that should happen this spring is still moving through. So that's where we're at, and trying to get the last of our money. And if it comes through, we should be constructing here, probably not this year, but most likely next summer. Because we gotta go through the legal bidding process and, all the stuff. And I believe there's some more permits that have to be, some wetland mitigation needs to be done, some permits and things like that. So probably not this summer, but next summer, if we get the money this year.
Kevin,
Yeah.
while you're here and everything too, can you update us on when the Wine and Beer Festival is this year?
The Beer and Wine Expo,
or
yeah.
Beer and Wine.
That is
Okay.
Saturday, April 27th, from 2 to 6 o'clock at the arena. It's a really good event in town. It brings a lot of people to the community. I think last year they had 1,500 people. Everyone seems to have a good time, and when the event's done, all the bars downtown are full of people, and it's a good day. It's a fun day.
Thanks. Thanks, sir. Oh,
It's from 2 to 6 p.m. So it's in the afternoon. It's a 4-hour event. The Hockey Association did really well with the event. I think last year they netted like $37,000 in that 4 hours. So it's a big fundraiser for them. It's their second biggest fundraiser they have.
Anybody else have any questions for Kevin?
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kevin.
Other matters of concern, the Richmond Fire Relief Association is having their Fire 55 bike run on May 18th. The other item is our next council meeting is April 18th at 6:30 here at City Hall. It'll be our workshop, and we'll be discussing our future project, street project, and other items. Anybody else have anything to add?
Yeah, I do too, Jim, real quick here. During that May 18th, the Fire Relief Association, that bike run, the music in the park will be having a music out there at the pavilion, a shelter, from 11 o'clock till 2. And so I think when things get a little bit closer for all of that, things will be posted pertaining to who we're having playing out there too. And then also, we met a week ago or so with our Music in the Park board, and we do have our schedule all laid out and everything for the upcoming summer. And we'll be starting on June 11th. And Tammy, Has anything been posted yet within the city's website at all, or anything of giving the
No,
amount of people that are, or the groups that are coming, I'm sorry?
I just sent the schedule and everything over for the area guide,
Okay,
so that will be forthcoming very soon.
perfect, thank you. That's all I had, Jim.
Anybody else have anything to add? If not, meeting adjourned.